Okay, Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. So now let's proceed to the next topic or subtopic 2.2. So firstly, we look at the plasma membrane. Okay, so what is plasma membrane? So plasma membrane we can found in the cell of the eukaryotic cell and also prokaryotic cell. So plasma membrane is the boundary that separate a living cell from its surrounding, and the function is to control the transportation of substance by exhibit selective permeability. Okay, so if you look at the plasma membrane, not all of the substance will be able to pass through the plasma membrane directly. So the example of the substance that can directly pass through the plasma membrane, for the example, is a lipid soluble substance. Okay, so for the plasma membrane, first you have to know the components of plasma membrane and also the models of the plasma membrane. So we look at the model of plasma membrane first. So model of the plasma membrane is proposed by J. Singer and G. Nicholson. So J. Singer and G. Nicholson proposed the model of plasma membrane which is called as fluid mosaic model. So what is the meaning of fluid mosaic model? So fluid actually it will refers to the phospholipid and some protein which are able to move, and mosaic refers to the protein that embedded in the membrane. Okay, embedded tu apa maksud dia? Embedded ni maksudnya terbenam. So kalau kita tengok based on the structure of the plasma membrane, okay, one of the component of the plasma membrane dia mesti kena ada phospholipid and also protein. So that's why bila kita refer kepada the definition of fluid, kenapa kita katakan dia sebagai fluid mosaic model? Because fluid actually it refers to the phospholipid and some protein which are able to move. Sebab dekat structure of the plasma membrane dia ada phospholipid dan juga some protein. And then for mosaic, it will refers to the protein that embedded in the membrane. Okay, so means that you have to know what is fluid mosaic model. So now we look at the components of plasma membrane. Kita tengok secara lebih spesifik. So plasma membrane, it will consist of phospholipid, protein, cholesterol, and another one carbohydrate. So firstly, we look at the phospholipid first. So phospholipid is amphiphilic. So what is the meaning of amphiphilic? Because at phospholipid, it has hydrophilic portion and also hydrophobic portion. Dia ada bahagian hydrophilic dan juga dia ada bahagian hydrophobic. So for hydrophilic portion, it consists of hydrophilic head, which is it will project outward to extracellular matrix and also cytoplasm. So hydrophilic head ni dia berada pada bahagian luar. So kalau awak tengok based on this diagram, so this is the hydrophilic head. And also for hydrophilic portion, okay, it will expose to water. So disebabkan oleh dia berada pada bahagian luar, so means that dia akan expose kepada water. Okay, but for hydrophobic portion, okay, it consists of hydrophobic tail. So dekat mana hydrophobic tail? So here is the hydrophobic tail. Okay, that project inward facing one another. So if you look at the structure of the hydrophobic tail here, it is located inside here and facing one another. Okay, and it is in non-aqueous environment inside the bilayer. Maksudnya dia berada pada bahagian non-aqueous. Okay, non-aqueous ni maksudnya pada kawasan yang tak ada air. So that's why one of the characteristic of the hydrophobic tail, dia akan repels water. Dia tak suka air. Tapi kalau untuk hydrophilic head, okay, it will attract water. Sebab dia, kita katakan disebabkan oleh dia expose to water, so dia suka kepada air. Okay, and then the substance that can pass through, okay, the phospholipid bilayer, the example of the substance are non-polar substance or lipid soluble substance. So the example here is steroid. Okay, so kalau awak bezakan dekat sini, so make sure you have to differentiate which one is the hydrophilic part, which one is the hydrophobic part. Okay, so now we look at the protein. Okay, so for protein that can be found in the plasma membrane, there are two types of protein. The first one we call as peripheral protein. The other one are integral protein. So what is the difference between peripheral protein and also integral protein? So if you look at this structure here, So this is the peripheral protein. So this is the integral protein. So what is the difference? For peripheral protein, it is not embedded in phospholipid bilayer. Not embedded means that if you look at the structure of the peripheral protein here, it will just attach, okay, on the surface of the membrane. Dia cuma berada pada permukaan membrane sahaja. And it is also loosely bound to the surface membrane. Okay, maksudnya adalah kalau kita katakan dekat sini peripheral protein is not embedded. Not embedded means dia tak terbenam pada structure of the phospholipid bilayer. Dia cuma berada pada bahagian permukaan sahaja. Tapi kalau untuk integral protein, okay, that protein will penetrate the hydrophobic core of phospholipid bilayer. Maksudnya dia akan penetrate ataupun kita kata it will be embedded at the phospholipid bilayer. But for integral protein, it can be fully embedded like this or it can be partially embedded, hanya sebahagian. Okay, and then for integral protein, it may function in transport. So it will act as one of the components in the transportation. So maybe it will act as a carrier protein or channel protein. So what is the difference between carrier protein and channel protein? So this is the diagram. So channel protein is like this. Okay, so means that substance can pass through to the phospholipid bilayer with the help of the channel protein, and also some of the substance can pass through the phospholipid bilayer with the help of the carrier protein. Okay, so next we look at the next component of the plasma membrane, which are cholesterol. So the function of the cholesterol, it will stabilize the membrane structure and it will provide flexibility to membrane. Okay, so let's say this is the structure of the phospholipid bilayer. So where does cholesterol is located? So this is the cholesterol. So the function of the cholesterol, it will stabilize the membrane structure. Okay, and then the other one components are carbohydrate. Okay, so what is carbohydrate? So carbohydrate can be found on external surface of plasma membrane. So here actually this is the carbohydrate that attach to the either to the lipid of the structure of the phospholipid bilayer, and also it will attach to the protein. So that's why the association of carbohydrate and also protein we call as glycoprotein. So where does the glycoprotein here? So glycoprotein is the association between this carbohydrate attached to the protein. So all of the structure we call as glycoprotein. When there is an association between lipid and also the carbohydrate, so this structure we call as glycolipid. So the function of the carbohydrate, it will function as cell identity marker. Okay. Okay, so now we can look at this handout. Okay, so first of all, you have to know how to label the structure of the plasma membrane. So we start with here. Okay, so what is this? So this is the carbohydrate that attached to the protein. So means that the structure here we call as glycoprotein. Okay, and then this structure, the only structure here, okay, yang ni sahaja, this one kita panggil sebagai carbohydrate. So bila carbohydrate attached with protein, so the whole structure we call as glycoprotein. And then this part, okay, this is what we call as phospholipid bilayer. Kenapa phospholipid bilayer? Kalau satu saja antara hydrophilic head and also the hydrophobic tail. Kalau satu je kita panggil sebagai phospholipid. So bila kedua-dua ni dilabelkan, okay, so this one kita panggil sebagai phospholipid bilayer. And then at the phospholipid bilayer, it has this component. So this is what we call as cholesterol. And then based on the types of protein in the structure of the plasma membrane, either here we call as integral protein. So integral protein, okay, we can differentiate with peripheral protein. For peripheral protein, that protein will attach on the surface of the plasma membrane. But for integral protein, it will be fully embedded or partially embedded at the structure of the phospholipid bilayer. So means that kalau kita tengok dekat sini, this protein is penetrate through the phospholipid bilayer. So that's why this is what we call as integral protein. And then the structure here, okay, so this is the carbohydrate that attached to the phospholipid. So the association between carbohydrate and also lipid we call as glycolipid. Okay. Next we look at A. So A, name the model of the plasma membrane as shown above. Explain your answer. So remember, based on the plasma membrane which is proposed by J. Singer and G. Nicholson, so the plasma membrane is fluid mosaic model. So means that you have to know how to explain. Okay, so fluid refers to phospholipid and some protein which are able to move, while mosaic refers to the protein that are embedded in the membrane. Okay, and then B, what are the function of plasma membrane? So if you look at here, actually there are 6 functions of the plasma membrane. The first one, transport. Second, enzymatic activity. Third, signal transduction. 4, cell-cell recognition. 5, intercellular joining. Another one, attachment to cytoskeleton and extracellular matrix. Okay, so kalau kita go through one by one. Okay, transport here means that it will provide hydrophilic channel across membrane that is selectively for particular solute. So kalau kita tengok tadi, kita dah discuss, okay, kalau untuk integral protein, maybe it may function as a transport protein. Either it can be channel protein or carrier protein. Because of what? Some of the substance needs transport protein to pass through the phospholipid bilayer. Either the substance will pass through channel protein or carrier protein, and some needs ATP to actively pump substance across membrane. Okay, some of the substance need ATP to across the plasma membrane. Okay, so yang ni sebenarnya dia ada kaitan dengan active transport. Okay, kalau untuk active transport, it is the movement of substance from lower concentration to higher concentration gradient. So that's why, okay, kalau dia melibatkan active transport, so it will needs ATP. Okay, and then second function of the plasma membrane is enzymatic activity. So if you look at this structure, so this enzyme, it will have active site to carry out metabolic pathway. Because of what enzyme? Actually, it is a type of protein. Okay, that can be found at the structure of the plasma membrane. Okay, and then we proceed to the next function, signal transduction. So what is signal transduction? So it may have binding site that is fit to chemical messengers such as hormone. So if you look at this structure, this protein here, so it may have a binding site, okay, for the chemical messenger. So the example of chemical messenger here is hormone. So the signal may cause a conformational change in protein which it will relay message to the inside of the cell. Okay, and then for next function, cell-cell recognition. So glycoprotein will serve as identification tag, which is it will recognize by membrane protein of other cell. Okay, so let's say ni adalah glycoprotein. So this glycoprotein will act as identification tag yang mana dia boleh recognize, okay, membrane protein of the other cell. Okay, and then next, intercellular joining. So protein of adjacent cell may hook together in various kind of junction. So example, cell in epithelial tissue. So this protein, okay, it may hook together. Dia boleh kita kata melekat, okay, antara satu protein dengan protein yang lain. So ni kita panggil sebagai intercellular joining. And then the last function is the attachment to cytoskeleton and extracellular matrix. So microfilament in cell attached to the membrane protein, which it will help to maintain the cell shape and stabilize location of certain membrane protein. Okay, so this is the cytoskeleton that can be found at the structure of the plasma membrane. Okay, so this protein, okay, this plasma membrane, it will attach to the cytoskeleton, which it will help to maintain the cell shape and stabilize the location of the certain membrane protein. Okay.